What we did was to use photo voice, where we gave very cheap mobile phones. They cost about $25 each, which had a camera. I gave it to community members. We selected about 30 of them and asked them to go into the community and take at least 15 photos of what they consider to be factors that affect their food security. We had about a 3-hour training process for them on how to use the camera, but also how to conceptualize and understand the idea of food security. Now, when they had done that, we met them after 3 days to debrief them, to try and get the photos, and also to get the understanding of which pictures matter most to them and what are the stories behind the photos. They brought back, after 3 days, 28 of them returned the pictures. There were 498 photos. Of these, we had conversations, about 140 of them. The conversations, when we analyzed them, yielded 5 main themes. Out of these 5 themes, they covered issues related to food access, land and environment and how it affects the food situation, food contamination, changing dietary patterns, and then gender-related issues on food security. So one of the key things that emerged is the fact that Galamsey, or the small-scale mining, affects both financial and physical access to food. So some of them were saying that because of the small-scale mining, the land that is available for farming has become scarce, and therefore food is expensive. That's part of the financial access thing. But in some cases, it wasn't just the fact that the land was unavailable, but also that the land that was available was unusable for farming. There were also physical access issues that have to do with the fact that because they dig pits, sometimes they go to land that does not belong to them and dig these pits to mine in there, and they leave the pits uncovered. So it creates challenges for farmers to use those lands. People go there, fall into the pits and die, those kinds of things. So for some of the people, they couldn't even access their farms, or it was difficult for them to go to their farms. Even when food is produced, there are challenges in going to the farm and bringing it because there is lack of access for vehicles to be able to reach the farm. The next theme talked about the fact that because of the effluent that comes from the gold mining, when they wash the sand, it washes into their farms and makes the land infertile. And so he took a contrast between what a palm tree should look like when it's healthy and when it's affected by the Galamsey. Then there is this one that also talked about the fact that because the land is not fertile, the food that is growing is not growing well, and therefore it affects productivity. Not only for crops, it also affects productivity for fish farming. So this used to be a place for fish farming. However, because they messed up with the water system and all the effluent from their washing the gold comes into their fish farming, they cannot continue fish farming again. Another one has to do with contamination. We had conversations with them, and it looked like there is a perception that the mercury that is being used to wash the gold is washing into the water systems, getting into the soil, and then coming up in the food chain. And so that was something that they were worried about. They said when they are sick and they go to the hospital, the doctors tell them that there are issues with mercury in the food. They also were worried that it looks like some of the crops that they are growing, even before it matures, it's dying off, and they suspect that it's because of the chemicals that are going, the heavy metals that are going into the food chain. There's this comment that I think is quite interesting. Cassava is a very common food staple, and so also is plantain. Here they are saying that plantain does not taste good anymore. It tastes like bad cassava, and the taste has changed because they think that it has the mercury and other metals have got into it. There were also those who said that they have changed their diet because they think that the fish that is now available has been contaminated. So they would rather eat food, the staples, and not include fish, which normally they would have eaten with the kind of foods that they are eating. The very last dimension has to do with gender. This picture I've blurred, so you deliberately blurred it so the face is not showing for ethical reasons. But for this one, they were talking about the fact that adolescent girls are more at risk of falling into the pits that are in the farms. And therefore, because they need better nutrition, this unfairly affects adolescents than other people in the community. The neat thing about this method is that once you do it, it is not just creating the evidence, but finding ways to make the evidence useful for action. So we took the pictures and held an exhibition with the community so that they can then engage and interact with this process. What we are now doing is we have collected samples, soil, food samples, and we are testing them to see whether the mercury and the other heavy metals that they talked about are there. We think that this is a neat way to bring a solution to make it available to those who bring about change. Thank you very much for your attention.